14-year-old Ohio girl shot and killed her father. The teen's mother says her daughter saved her from an abusive marriage.
She's my hero. I wasn't strong enough to get out, and she helped us all.
But the sister of 41-year-old Jonathan Meadows insists her brother was a loving dad and that he was murdered.
It was cold and calculated. He was murdered in his sleep. There was no signs of abuse or anything else in that house.
14-year-old Brescia Meadows is charged with aggravated murder. She's pleaded not guilty. I'll speak to her attorney in just a minute. I'm back now with Lisa, Spirit, and Pat. Joining us as well, a defense attorney, Yodit Tewolde. Pat, you have some background on the shooting. Fill us in.
Well, let's talk about the relationship between Jonathan and Brandy, which goes back, I think, about 18 years.
That's the mom?
Yes, that's the mom, Brandy, and she has claimed it's been horrific. I just didn't have the courage to leave.
Did she file reports? Did he?
Well,
is there a record?
Funny you should ask, because in 2011, and I have the incident report right here, she tells a police officer that Jonathan said he was going to kill her and their 3 children because he was not going to let anyone else have her or raise their kids because he thought she was cheating. Now, she does not eventually leave, and she does drop the charges based on this incident report, and we all know that, you know, women stay for a lot of, you know, reasons that some are credible, even though it's a terrible situation. Bottom line was, he's sleeping on the couch at 4 in the morning. Brandy's sleeping on the floor next to him. Brescia Meadows, the teen daughter, takes the very .45 that she claims he's been waving around, intimidating the family with over all these years, and shoots him in the head. There were claims that there was an abusive situation the day before, and one of the aunts claims that Brescia said to her mom, "Mommy, now you're free."
All right, well, I want to get some input from my attorneys before I go any further on this. Lisa, let's say the abuse was profound. That does not justify murder, right? It's not a justification for murder. People that are involved in domestic violence households should not be encouraged to murder or excused from murder. But how do we reconcile that?
No, but legally, this could be an imperfect self-defense theory. This is a 14-year-old girl, so we're going to give her some leeway because she's not an adult and she doesn't think like an adult. And if she felt that the only way to protect her mother and her family was to take her father's life, yes, that is a crime, but I would not call that first-degree murder. And I hope she's treated like a juvenile in all of this.
Yodit, do you agree with what Lisa just said, or do you have a modification of that?
No, I actually do. Ohio allows someone to use deadly force against another person if there is a reasonable belief that that person poses an imminent danger to life or a substantial physical harm. Now, the question is going to be, well, was there imminent danger when this 14-year-old shot her father while he was sleeping? Well, the argument could be made that, yeah, this was the only time she can actually do that. Right. There's a history of abuse that's been documented, well documented, for a number of years. So that could be the argument in court.
Now, the teen's aunt, a Cleveland police officer, says that the niece, Brescia, ran away in May because of the abuse. 5 years earlier, Brescia's mother filed a protective order against the husband, which she eventually dropped. But, Spirit, when kids run away from the home and stay away, there's usually abuse in the home, and the mom has mentioned abuse. But ultimately, it's really going to be just what the mom reports that is going to be the defense for this kid. And I'm very uncomfortable with this being okay in the eyes of the law.
Oh, Dr. Drew, I'm very uncomfortable about a lot of things here. How about the language that the mom is using? And even for the daughter to say then, Mom, now you're free. It makes me wonder what kind of seeds mom was planting in this daughter around fear and escape and around save me and rescuing and all of these things, Dr. Drew. I just feel like there are some pieces to this puzzle that are missing, and there are some things to be looked at here with mom. This whole thing just seems so gone awry to me.
Go ahead,
Pat. It really does.
Yeah.
I agree wholeheartedly. It's so odd to me that immediately after this, the mother is talking to media saying, she's my hero. Clearly this child is troubled. Clearly this child is traumatized by something that would make her even do this. But it just is so odd to me. It seems so inappropriate for the mother to be saying such things during this time.
It's kind of wild. And I have had other patients nearly kill an abusive father, literally be at, holding a shotgun at his head in the middle of the night while it's always while they sleep. That's when this tends to happen. And then not do it. I've had a few cases do that. So this is not unheard of, but the abuse in those situations were profound. Now, joining me is Ian Friedman. He's the teen's attorney. Ian, you're calling it self-defense. How do we reconcile? Tell us, what are the facts here?
All right. So good evening, Dr. Drew.
Good evening.
First off, let me thank you for taking an interest in this case. Everyone would agree it's absolutely tragic. I will fill in, as your guest stated, what's needed here are the other pieces of the puzzle. And the other pieces of the puzzle are that this goes back, we're talking about almost to the beginning of the marriage and even while dating. I do not believe that it's only going to be the report of the mother. There were 2 other children in the home. There were their boyfriends and girlfriends. The other pieces are going to be by way of reports, which are going to be given to the prosecutor in the coming weeks. These reports will corroborate the abuse. Brandy, the mother, had been to the hospital approximately 15 to 20 times over the course of the years. This is what Bresia saw on a daily basis. These beatings were punching in the face, kicking, stomping to the point of being unconscious. And this young girl did what she felt necessary to defend her mother, her siblings, and herself. And I think Lisa hit it, basically on the head when she was saying that, this was the time that she felt that she could do it. This 14-year-old girl was not going to be able to defend herself against her father, who also, and reports by several others, they saw him carrying the gun around, threatening the gun with the gun. And so this went on and on and on. And so really what this was just was a constant nightmare
Mr. Freeman,
that Bresia had to live in.
I'm running short of time, but let me ask you this. Do you think she will be tried as an adult?
I hope not. I believe that once we get those records to the prosecutor, that they will see this just as a 14-year-old with no need to bind over. And it will be a self-defense case here. I think you're going to see a lot of elements. You're going to see a mom with battered woman syndrome. You're going to see the secondary trauma on Bresia. And there's a lot of literature on it. You know that. And that's the tax that I think is dictated by the facts of this case.
Thank you, Mr. Freeman. I appreciate you being here with us. Next up, I have the victim's sister who says the brother was not an abuser, that this was simply cold, calculated murder. She's with us. And later, a security camera recorded a bizarre break-in. This intruder ate a family's food, tried